What is going on, guys? Today we have a very interesting video for you, and maybe kind of a sad one because there's a lot of news going around about Alibaba stock. It has been so volatile, and last Friday, July 29th, we had some news come out that sent the stock through the floor. So in this video, we're going to get into that news. We're going to discuss what's going on with that news, what's going on with Alibaba stock, and then I'm going to give my opinion on the stock, what I am doing with my shares. So if you've watched any of my previous videos, you know that I am a shareholder of Alibaba and still am at this point. And I'm going to discuss basically my opinion about the stock, where I think it's going moving forward. And then, yeah, we'll close out the video there. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure you drop a like down below. And if you want to see more videos like this one, make sure you hit that sub button. First things first, let's take a look at this terrible chart that we have from Alibaba. So when you just look at this, you kind of, you're not getting the full picture, because basically there was news that came out, right, about Alibaba, and then it traded sideways all day on Friday. But when we jump back to the 5-day, that's when you start feeling the real pain. So they are down over 11% in the last 5 days. And we were starting to see some stability. It's kind of going through another one of those swings down is what we're really, getting a taste of here with Alibaba. They've kind of had that swing up recently, and then they're swinging back down, approaching all-time lows again. So here you can see, going into Thursday, throughout Thursday, and then going into Friday, we just see the stock tank through the floor. So all the way up at $100, and then crashing down here to $89.37. So overall, down quite a bit. When we look at the last month, it just gets worse, because we saw Alibaba, as I mentioned, it spiked up. It started kind of recovering off of, these lows of around $80. All the way up to around 120, and it was starting to look like there was some positivity coming in the market. China was, getting away from some of their saying that they were, going to work towards finding tech companies and getting, past that really quickly. And then all of a sudden, a couple fines came out for some of these tech companies that were larger than people expected. And then all of a sudden we have the news that we're going to look at here next for Alibaba. So overall, we could see that there's a 52-week low of $73.28. And then they also have a 52-week high of $203.28. But when we go back and look at the last 5 years, we could see that, they have a high in here of $100 over that of around $309.92. So when you see a chart like this and you know that it's earnings season, and you see a downward move that is basically this drastic of 11%, you kind of expect that, Alibaba must have reported their earnings and they came in really poor, and that's why the stock is down. But when we jump over and we just Google, what is Alibaba's earnings date, they do not report until August 4th. And I knew this before the day. I was wondering if, maybe they reported earnings. When I was sitting in work, I saw that they were down so much. And I was like, did they report earnings, like some sort of, pre-forecast to their earnings or something, some sort of guidance before their earnings? So I was kind of sitting there wondering like what was going on. And then once I dug into the news a little bit more, we find out that there are delisting fears back. So on Friday, the US SEC added Alibaba to their delisting list. So that is why the stock is down so much. Basically, the SEC is coming in and they are saying that they are still evaluating Alibaba as a company that could potentially be delisted from the New York Stock Exchange. What we are really seeing and what's going on is the SEC wants to be able to audit Chinese companies. So they can't go in right now and basically look over the books of Alibaba or any other Chinese company and, determine, hey, is there fraud? Hey, are their numbers actually matching up? Are they getting the revenue that they're claiming on their earnings announcements? Are they getting the EPS that they're claiming? Basically, the SEC is trying to protect investors. But China has continued to basically push back and say that we don't want the SEC to come in and audit, these companies. And oftentimes, the Chinese government owns or at least has some controlling rights over a lot of these companies. So they don't want, the large US at the SEC coming in and looking at, what the Chinese government is actually doing and owning and what's going on in the country. So overall, that's kind of the fight that's going on here between the SEC and, the Chinese government. And then always, the China and US government has their own, conflicts going on in the background as well. So a lot of, tension between the two parties. So with that, there is a little bit of positive news with Alibaba stock. Basically, they are looking to get a primary listing on the Hong Kong stock exchange. And Citibank views that as a positive. So they released a statement here saying, "We view the move as positive, given the continued overhang of ADRs from the threat of delisting. A smooth transition to a new primary listing could pave the way for other companies that already have dual listings." So basically saying that, there's a good possibility that if Baba kind of makes a smooth transition to also being listed in Hong Kong, that there will be, it'll open up for other companies to also be listed, on multiple exchanges, which overall it's kind of surprising that, with how globalized the world is becoming. And what I mean by globalized is, the interconnections between all of the countries being, closer and closer. Like I can call people in Japan, I could call people in China, on Facebook or WhatsApp or whatever. It's kind of crazy that the stock market as a total has not become, just one global market. And I'm sure there's economic reasons for that and other things, going on, but there's already so much effect between the two, right? If the US stock market falls a ton, then generally what you see around the world is, other stock markets being affected. So it's kind of interesting and something, that over time, I kind of see us, transitioning to a more globalized type of economy where there is just one, stock exchange platform. But, that's probably years and years in the future. So anyways, I wanted to jump over real quick and, show ADRs. If you don't know what ADRs are, they are American Depository Receipts. And basically right here, what that means is it's a security that represents shares of a non-US company that is held by a US depository bank outside the United States. So that's kind of what they're talking about there. Another quick note, I wanted to look up and see what brokerages are you able to trade international markets with? And the only one I could find anything explicit with was here Fidelity. And Fidelity, you can see, has Hong Kong listed as one of the markets that you're able to trade in. The other brokerages like TD Ameritrade, Vanguard, I couldn't find anything explicit when I tried to Google it, but that isn't to say that they don't offer, something similar. So it's important to note, if Alibaba does get delisted, it's not the same as, the company going bankrupt where your money just disappears. Basically, all it means is, you're going to have to, it'll either trade over the counter or if Baba does end up getting a listing in Hong Kong, then, it'll trade in international markets. And, that is a bad thing from the stance of there's, tends to be less money in international markets than the US market. So the stock will likely fall as, other investors pull out of it, especially US investors. But, over time, you could see a rebound as investors and from the country, from Hong Kong or China or wherever, it ends up getting listed, as they pour money back in, you could see, the stock start to rebound back up. So overall, just something to note and something important to understand with the stock, and even if delisting, occurs. So here we have a little bit more negativity with Alibaba stock. So Xi Jinping seems to be moving away from trying to maintain 5.5 GDP growth, which again is nothing concerning. Overall, the world economy is going to suffer, right? The US has had 2 straight quarters of negative GDP growth, which puts us officially in a recession by, all previously accepted definition terms. And then with that, that's not really what I'm primarily concerned about for China. For China, this next statement is what concerns me. So China's top leadership gave a downbeat assessment of economic growth, but didn't announce new stimulus policies at a key meeting. It stated the country should achieve the best outcome possible for economic growth this year while sticking to their strict zero COVID policy. So this last statement in here, there's strict COVID zero policy. So basically what China has done, and they've been one of the only countries to keep doing this, but they will still shut down entire cities, entire areas of the country to try and fight COVID. So if they see cases going up in an area, they will basically turn around and go, to that area and say, you are not allowed to work. You are completely shutting down until, we see cases start to drop back down. So it is just a very interesting policy. I think a lot of it has to do with, the backlash that they got originally at the start of everything going on. And, they're trying to continue to fight it and stop things from, spreading. So it's very interesting, but it also hurts their economy. It absolutely crushes their economy, and it's affecting the world economy just because, how many things are produced over in China. So that, in my opinion, is actually a lot more negative than anything else going on with Alibaba, because, if people are not allowed to work, Alibaba is not allowed to produce any of their or distribute any of their goods, then, there's problems overall with the Chinese economy, and they will, continue to see falling GDP growth throughout China. Before I give my final thoughts on the stock, we have a little bit more positivity here in this Seeking Alpha article. So Seeking Alpha, and I don't take a whole lot of weight from analysts or articles or whatever companies, changing their buy, hold, sell ratings, but they have upgraded their rating on Alibaba from a hold to a buy. So basically they're saying that, now would be a good time to pick up shares of Alibaba stock because it's down, close to its 52-week lows. And then they have also stated here that with so much pessimism around the stock recently, if their earnings, if they give any positive guidance, if the earnings come in, a little bit better than expected, anything like that, that could send the stock up a little bit. Obviously, delisting concerns, I think, are going to take precedent over that. But overall, if there is any positivity with earnings, we'll see some sort of bounce up. And again, that's August 4th is when they announce. And then the final thing that they have here is they have an absolutely massive net cash position. So they have 44 or almost $44 billion in cash. And what this allows Alibaba to do is continue to repurchase shares. And as they repurchase their shares, their earnings per share will increase. And basically what this often does for stocks, whether it's, Alibaba or Apple stock, is as they repurchase shares, that basically net income can be distributed over less and less shares, driving up their stock price. So overall, a positive there. I want to close out this video by giving my thoughts on Baba stock. So when I go into a stock, I kind of go into it with the thought process of, I put this money in, it's there, I'm going to let things play out, how they play out. Until, I'm either proven wrong or proven right. And at this point, I still don't think I have been proven wrong with Alibaba stock. It feels like to me that, the SEC is still trying to push back on China and basically be able to push back and go in and audit, Chinese companies. And I think they should. I think that's something that they have the right to do, that their, intentions are good. They're trying to protect the average investor, and they want to, be able to confirm some of these numbers that these international companies are putting out. So at the end of the day, someone will have to bend and, find some sort of compromise. So I think what will end up happening is maybe they'll allow Chinese firms to audit, some of these companies. Maybe they will allow some US companies to come in and actually audit Chinese companies and, look over these numbers. I don't know exactly what the compromise is, but I get the feeling more so that there is going to be a compromise. And a lot of that, comes on the back of some of the confidence that other investors have put into stocks like Alibaba. Whether it's Charlie Munger, who's purchased, millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of shares, or, Ray Dalio, who's also, a big proponent of China. So overall, I plan on holding until, the stock gets delisted. And if it gets delisted, I'll still have the shares to trade over the counter. I think in the future, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, at some point the US and I think China will have to kind of start to get along and start to interact. Like I talked about earlier in the video, I think we're headed more towards a globalized economy where eventually, all countries will have to interact in some way and rely on each other for, something. So, I think that will kind of adhere to the stock market in general becoming a more globalized market for everyone to have ownership in. So that's just my opinion. Obviously, at this point I wouldn't suggest anyone to buy into China or buy into Chinese companies, whether it's Alibaba or any other company. I think you're taking on a whole lot of risk, but I still think in my opinion, and this isn't financial advice at all, but in my opinion, I think, the risk is worth the reward. I think this could easily be a 3x stock. We're seeing the company, it produces results year over year. It's in the largest populated country in the world. So, they have a lot of things going for them. There's just, this one overhang of, hey, can the SEC get in there and audit some of these books? And actually look at what the company's up to. So overall, like I said, I'm going to hold out until I'm either proven right or proven wrong, and we'll see what happens. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like down below. And if you want to see more videos like this one, make sure you hit that sub button. And as always, have a wonderful rest of your day.